It's a big day in the world of tech, everybody, and we're going to look at some of the top tech stories right now on the Huffington Post. The Xbox 360 sold 70 million units worldwide. Today, Microsoft unveiled the replacement to the popular console, the Xbox One. It promises a whole new set of entertainment options and improved gaming, but did it live up to the hype? Here to discuss it with us is Will O'Neill, editor-in-chief of Tech Radar, Richard Mitchell, reviews editor at Joystick, and Lee Alexander, editor-at-large at Gamasutra. Thanks to all of you for being here. Appreciate it. Richard, let me start with you. What are the highlights for gamers here?
That's an excellent question. We were talking about this before we got started here. There actually wasn't a lot of information about games, unless you're into EA Sports. They announced a Halo television show. They did show a new IP from Remedy Entertainment, who does the Max Payne series, and they did Alan Wake. But we didn't really get to see what the actual game looks like. And then we saw Call of Duty, which, guess what? There's a new Call of Duty every year. It looks great. Like, the graphics look fantastic, but the majority of the presentation was all about how to make Xbox the center of your entertainment center.
But there's also a really cool Call of Duty dog, though. There's a cool dog in Call of Duty. So
yeah, and there's a great Twitter account.
The dog.
The dog has his own Twitter account now, so
that's right, he does.
That's what everybody wants. Lee, Richard doesn't sound particularly excited about all of this. A little bummed out. How do you feel?
I was largely bummed out, actually. I think it's a really dubious and backwards-facing proposition for a console to be chasing the home television market at a time where we're really a generation of device multitaskers. Like, do you want to Skype on your TV set while you're watching NFL? Or, do you want to be playing a video game and doing something else on your tablet? This proposition that is entirely centered on the television at the expense of games, I don't really know what value the console is going to offer to the modern gamer. Of course, we're going to have to wait till E3 when Microsoft says they're going to show us, the software that it plans to publish. But, with consoles becoming much more restricted walled gardens and the cost of game software development increasing so in such a pronounced way, I think it's going to be really, really challenging for it to be a rewarding proposition for publishers and developers to invest in creating incredibly high-end content for a platform that we don't really know yet how many people want.
Will, what about from an entertainment perspective? There was a deal cut with the NFL. Talk to us about, it's sort of sacrilegious to say put gaming aside, but from a strictly entertainment perspective, what does the One have to offer?
Well, the exclusive NFL partnership is actually something that's pretty exciting because my friends and I were all pretty big, hardcore NFL sports fans. And one of the things that we've been waiting for is for Microsoft to announce something with the NFL. That's all very cool. One of the questions that I had around that is that the whole integration with fantasy sports and things like that, in the sense that they're really playing up their ESPN partnership. And as far as I know, the vast majority of fantasy sports players use Yahoo. So I don't really see myself using that fantasy feature, but they really are playing up the entertainment aspect of the Xbox One. One of the things that was really amazing during the announcement is how much they were talking about TV entertainment without ever mentioning gaming. And I think I heard the word console mentioned for the first time like 20 minutes into the presentation. It's like they just weren't talking about that. It was all about entertainment and television. It was sort of like what Lee was saying before, is that seems to be their big focus is this commitment to taking over your living room, which as far as I'm concerned, I kind of thought that Microsoft had already taken over the living room with the Xbox 360. I want
to ask you not to get too nerdy, but my understanding is there are HDMI ins on the Xbox One. How does that change game, if at all?
So if you look at a picture of the back of the Xbox One and you compare that to the back of, let's say, an Xbox 360, obviously I work for Tech Radar, so I'm like really into, taking things apart and the guts and whatnot. The thing is packed with, of course, there's multiple HDMI ports. Because I wasn't actually in Redmond, so I was basically learning about it by looking at reading stories and looking at pictures. But it sounds like what they want you to do is take your cable box or your satellite box and plug the HDMI cable from that into the Xbox and basically just sort of bypass your cable or satellite box and use the Xbox to sort of drive your entire entertainment sort of ecosystem.
All right, Richard, Lee, Will, thank you all very much for coming on and giving us a look at the Xbox One. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
All right, everybody, we're going to move on now to hit the other tech stories of the day. And joining us right now is HuffPost tech reporter Tim Stanovic. Hey, Tim.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you. So, Tim, today at a Senate hearing, Apple CEO Tim Cook disputed assertions by a Senate panel that the company managed to avoid paying billions of dollars in taxes by shifting their assets to foreign affiliates.
We pay all the taxes we owe, every single dollar. We not only comply with the laws, but we comply with the spirit of the laws. We don't depend on tax gimmicks. We don't move intellectual property offshore and use it to sell our products back to the United States to avoid taxes. We don't stash money on some Caribbean island. We don't move our money from our foreign subsidiaries to fund our U.S. business in order to skirt the repatriation tax.
Tim Cook does not seem particularly happy to be in front of the Senate. What do we make of all of this and the back and forth there?
There were a lot of don'ts there, weren't there?
You sure were.
I was sort of hoping he would turn it into unveiling a new product, but I think this is a serious conversation, and I think that Apple's been called out, of course, by the U.S. government for failing to pay. Well, I shouldn't say failing; they didn't pay billions of dollars of taxes. And what Apple's saying is that it doesn't have subsidiaries, but the way that it's protecting its money and the way that they're protecting themselves from having to pay these taxes is by keeping this money overseas. And Tim Cook and Apple say that this isn't anything illegal. This is just something that it does in order to remain competitive with other multinational corporations. We see Google having a similar strategy as well. And I think, the Obama campaign or Obama's office has weighed in on this, of course. And, they've used this as an example of why tax reform is needed.
The Obama campaign, on the other hand, likes the Apple people because they contribute to the campaign. All right, I got one more for you, Tim, before you go. Tech news site Ars Technica conducted an experiment where they detected that 2 out of 4 links they sent over Skype were accessed by a computer using Microsoft's IP address. So this goes against Skype's assertion that they're using end-to-end encryption, basically securing your messages between you and the intended recipient. Is this potentially problematic here, Tim?
It absolutely is problematic, especially for people who think that their messages aren't being read even by robots. Look, this is the internet, and in order to use a free service, there are some costs to that, and there are terms of service as well. And Skype, what it says it's doing for its part is that it's just protecting users. It's checking for phishing, it's checking for spam, and that it's and that's what they're doing. But I think that if people were concerned about this for privacy reasons, then they might raise eyebrows at what Ars Technica found.
All right, Tim Stenovec, thanks so much for joining. Good to see you, man.
Always good to see you.
All right, thanks a lot. Everybody stick around. We're going to have more top stories right after this short break.